it is almost like borderline disturbing how acclimated everyone has gotten to the idea that, you know what, I've got 700, I've got 1,000, I've got all these dollar figures that other people will say, hey, that's my rent.
If you walked into a dealership today, you might think nothing has changed. The lights are bright, the banners are up, and the stickers on the windshields still scream hot deals and last chance savings. But behind that polished showroom floor, something far bigger is happening. Something the latest Edmunds report just dragged into the light. For the last few years, the story has been simple. Cars are expensive, supply is tight, and if you want anything remotely decent, you'll have to overpay and be grateful you even got it. Automakers, analysts, and even some news outlets have been repeating a comforting phrase: prices are stabilizing. The market is normalizing. But the new Edmunds data says otherwise. Instead of a gentle cooldown, the report reveals a market under serious stress. New car prices are quietly being cut. Inventory is stacking up at levels not seen in years. Electric vehicles are sitting unsold. Used cars bought at peak pandemic prices are plunging in value. Loan delinquencies are rising. And behind the scenes, manufacturers and dealers are already using hidden discounts and silent incentives to keep the whole system from seizing up. This isn't just about getting a slightly better deal on your next car. It's about a bubble that's finally starting to deflate, maybe even burst. A bubble built on record high prices, massive monthly payments, and the assumption that buyers would just keep stretching further and further, no matter how much it hurt their wallets. In this video, we're going to unpack what Edmunds uncovered and what it really means for the car market in 2025 and beyond. We'll look at why lots are filling up again after years of shortages, why some cars are losing value at a breathtaking pace, why banks and lenders are suddenly getting nervous, and which brands are quietly winning while others are on the brink of a serious reckoning. Most importantly, we'll break down what this means for you, whether you're thinking about buying, trading in, leasing, or just trying to survive your current payment, because this is the first time in years that the balance of power is shifting. For a long time, automakers and dealerships called the shots. Now the data suggests something very different. Buyers are finally starting to regain the upper hand. The only question is whether they'll know how to use it. So let's start at the beginning, not with the headlines, but with the quiet implosion that's been building underneath them for months. Real quick, if you're into videos that cut through the noise and break things down clearly, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps more people find this. And if you're not subscribed yet, now's a good time. We've got more deep dives coming your way. Also, drop a comment and let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your take. Now onto the video. On the surface, it looked like the car market was finally calming down. Chip shortages that crippled production in 2020 and 2021 started to ease. Old factory lines restarted. Dealerships that were once nearly empty began to refill. Industry spokespeople went on television and said the same reassuring line: "We're seeing normalization. Things are stabilizing." But the Edmunds report shows that what looked like normalization was actually something very different. The early stages of a correction. To understand why, you have to rewind a few years. During the pandemic, the formula was simple. Very few cars, very strong demand, with supply chain issues, chip shortages, and factory shutdowns. Automakers didn't have to try very hard to sell what little they could build. Buyers were lining up, paying over sticker price, and in many cases signing up for record-long loans at eye-watering monthly payments just to get into a new vehicle. Dealerships had leverage, and they used it. Markups became normal. Market adjustment fees were quietly added to contracts. Used vehicles that would have been average at best just a few years earlier were suddenly hot inventory with inflated prices to match. Many buyers didn't like it, but they felt trapped.
If you needed a car, you paid what the market demanded.
Fast forward to now. Production has ramped back up. Supply chains are in better shape. Automakers, eager to recover lost volume and hit new targets, have been building aggressively again. They planned for strong, sustained demand. They assumed that if people were willing to swallow massive prices during a crisis, they'd tolerate only slightly lower prices in calmer times. The Edmunds data suggests they were wrong. What the report highlights is a growing disconnect between what automakers are producing and what buyers are willing or able to pay. Transaction prices, the real numbers people actually pay after discounts and negotiations, are slipping faster than the official sticker prices would suggest. It's not happening in loud, obvious ways. You won't always see it on billboards or flashy online ads. Instead, it shows up in quiet dealer incentives, hidden rebates, and off-the-record price cuts on slow-moving inventory. Behind closed doors, many buyers are no longer playing the old game. They're walking away from deals that would have been accepted in 2021 or 2022. After pushing harder on negotiations, they're switching to cheaper brands, smaller vehicles, or simply holding on to their existing cars, rather than taking on another giant payment. The result is a slow, grinding pressure building inside the system. Lots that felt comfortably stocked a year ago are now starting to look overcrowded. Days of supply, the industry metric that measures how long current inventory would last at the current sales pace, are climbing for certain brands and segments. As the first warning sign of imbalance, too many vehicles chasing too few buyers. This is why Edmunds and other analysts are starting to use words like overhang, oversupply, and correction. The report doesn't describe a catastrophe happening overnight. It describes a market slipping out of the grip of those who thought they could control it indefinitely. For years, automakers were able to blame everything on shortages. Now they can't. The excuses are gone. But the prices stayed high, and consumers, already hammered by higher living costs in other parts of life, are reaching their breaking point. That's the quiet implosion. Not a dramatic crash all at once, but a steady shift in leverage and sentiment. Cars are still selling, but not at any price. Buyers are still coming into showrooms, but they're no longer willing to accept whatever number appears on the paper in front of them. And that's only the first layer of the story. Because once you see this pressure at the surface, it raises a bigger question. What happens when all those extra cars sitting on lots start colliding with a used car market that's already wobbling? That's where things start to get much more painful for dealers, for lenders, and for anyone who bought at the wrong time. If there's one section of the Edmunds report that sent a chill through the industry, it's the part that deals with inventory. For the first time since the pandemic, the United States isn't facing a shortage of cars, it's facing too many. And it's not just one or two brands struggling with stock. This is a broad, structural issue affecting mass market, luxury, SUV, truck, hybrid, especially EV segments, all at the same time. Inventory is the hidden heartbeat of the automotive world. When lots are empty, prices skyrocket. When lots overflow, everything breaks down, pricing power disappears, incentives rise, trade-ins collapse, and production schedules fall apart. According to Edmunds, many brands are now sitting on inventory levels not seen since before 2020, and some have quietly crossed into dangerous territory. More than 100 days supply on certain models. To put that into context, anything around 60 days is considered healthy. Anything above 90 days signals trouble. Beyond 120 days? That's panic mode. Edmunds highlights specific problem areas. Trucks and large SUVs, once the most reliable profit machines for American automakers, are now clogging lots nationwide. Ford dealers are swimming in F-150s and Explorers. GM is sitting on fields of Silverados and Blazers. Stellantis has huge backlogs of Rams and Jeeps. Even brands known for lean inventory, like Honda, Hyundai, and occasionally Toyota, are watching their stockpile rise faster than expected. Behind the scenes, this is prompting uncomfortable conversations. Dealers are pressuring automakers to slow down production, but factories can't simply slam the brakes. Supplier contracts, labor agreements, and manufacturing timelines are rigid. Cutting output too quickly can cost millions. Keeping it too high risks billions in unsold vehicles. It's a lose-lose situation. There are even reports confirmed through drone footage, satellite images, and dealership whistleblowers of overflow lots being used across the country. Cars are being parked in unused mall parking lots, open fields, warehouses, even abandoned industrial sites.
These aren't conspiracy theories. They're logistical measures dealerships take when their own lots simply can't hold any more product. And the biggest red flag? Some of these vehicles aren't even listed online yet. Dealers don't always want customers to know just how much excess there is. Public-facing inventory may show a few units. The actual number sitting behind the building could be 10 times higher. But why is this happening now? Edmunds' data points to a simple but alarming reason. Automakers completely misread consumer demand. They assumed that the appetite for big vehicles seen during the pandemic would continue.
They assumed buyers would tolerate high monthly payments indefinitely. They assumed the pricing power they enjoyed during shortages would last longer. Buyers, however, have changed. Inflation has hit households hard. Insurance premiums are soaring. Interest rates are still elevated. Wages aren't keeping up. People aren't rushing into $800 or $1,000 payments anymore. And many who stretched themselves thin in 2021, 2023, swore they would never do it again. The inventory imbalance is the clearest sign of this shift. It shows that the market has turned, even if automakers hoped it wouldn't. And the longer vehicles sit unsold, the faster the next stage of the correction arrives, because when new cars pile up and stop moving, they collide directly with the used market, and that collision is already causing real damage. If the new car side of the market looks unstable, the used side is showing outright cracks. For years, used vehicles acted as a safety valve. When new cars were expensive or unavailable, buyers turned to pre-owned models. That surge in demand pushed used prices to historic highs. Some used cars even sold for more than their brand new counterparts. Nowadays, the era is over. Edmunds' depreciation charts paint a painful picture. Used vehicles, especially those purchased at the height of the pandemic, are losing value at the fastest rate seen in nearly a decade. The market correction that analysts predicted for 2024 is unfolding even faster in 2025. Several forces are accelerating it. The first is massive overvaluation. Cars that sold for absurd premiums in 2021 and 2022 were never worth those prices in the first place. A $45,000 SUV bought 2 years ago might now fetch barely half that at auction. Dealers today won't even bid competitively on certain models without slashing expected values by 40–50%. The gap between what buyers owe and what their cars are worth, negative equity, is growing at a rate that's starting to alarm lenders. The second factor is the flood of repossessions. According to the Edmunds report, loan delinquencies are spiking. People who signed up for $700, $900, even $1,200 monthly payments during the frenzy are starting to fall behind. When repossessions increase, those vehicles head straight to wholesale auctions, where they're sold at whatever price the market can support. That flood of low-priced supply pushes all used values down. Then there's lease returns, another wave hitting the market right now. E-vehicles leased in 2021 and 2022, when lease terms were structured on inflated residual values, are coming back in huge numbers. Automakers are quietly adjusting residuals downward, preparing for heavy losses, as returned vehicles are worth far less than originally forecast. Electric vehicles, meanwhile, are experiencing the steepest depreciation in the entire industry. Some EVs are losing 30–40% of their value in the first year alone. Insurance costs, uncertain long-term reliability, expensive repairs, and the rapid pace of new EV technology all combine to weaken confidence in older models. Dealers at auction are turning away from certain EVs entirely, calling them radioactive inventory. Another overlooked factor is falling export demand. For years, US auction houses cleared out unpopular models by shipping them overseas. But several regions, especially in Africa and parts of the Middle East, are tightening import rules, restricting older or high-maintenance cars due to environmental and economic concerns. Without those export outlets, used vehicles that once had guaranteed second lives abroad are instead stacking up domestically. All of this creates a dangerous loop. Lower used values make trade-ins worth less. Lower trade-in values make new car purchases harder. Reduced demand for new cars leads to more inventory build-up, which leads to deeper discounts, which drag used prices down even further. Edmunds refers to this feedback loop as the Great Unwinding. It's not a simple correction. It's a multi-stage reset driven by mismatched supply, weakened buyer demand, and the lingering effects of pandemic-era pricing. And there's another piece of the puzzle that makes everything worse, something happening in the lending system. Because when buyers are overextended and cars keep losing value, lenders get nervous. And when lenders get nervous, the entire market feels it. That leads us directly into one of the most critical and least understood parts of the correction. If falling prices and rising inventory are the visible symptoms of a stressed market, the credit squeeze described in the Edmunds report is the underlying condition that threatens to push the entire system into deeper trouble. For years, cheap financing fueled the auto boom. Low interest rates made even expensive cars feel attainable. Long-term loans, 72, 84, even 96 months, became mainstream. Lenders approved buyers with thinner credit profiles because collateral values were rising. That gave consumers a sense of freedom and automakers a steady stream of sales. But that era is ending quickly. According to Edmunds, lenders across the board are tightening approvals. This isn't happening loudly. There are no headlines announcing stricter underwriting policies. Instead, it's happening quietly, through subtle shifts in how risk is evaluated and how loans are structured. Buyers who would have been approved just a year ago are now hitting unexpected roadblocks. One of the biggest changes is the rise in minimum credit score thresholds. Edmunds reports that even borrowers in the low 700 credit range, once considered prime, are being pushed into higher interest tiers or denied entirely for certain models. Lenders are becoming more selective, especially with vehicles that are known to depreciate quickly or have high insurance and repair costs. The reason is simple. The risk of default is rising. Auto loan delinquencies have reached multi-year highs, and lenders don't want to be stuck with vehicles worth far less than the remaining balance on the loan. In 2021 or 2022, a repossessed car often sold for more than the loan amount, making defaults manageable. In 2025, the opposite is true. In 2025, the opposite is true. Repossessed vehicles routinely sell for thousands or tens of thousands below what borrowers still owe. Those losses land squarely on lenders' balance sheets. Another pressure point is in insurance. Premiums have jumped 20–40% in many states, and lenders now consider insurance affordability part of the credit evaluation process. If insurance quotes are too high, lenders may require larger down payments or shorter loan terms, making monthly payments even more burdensome. In extreme cases, lenders refuse the loan outright because the total cost of ownership is considered unsustainable. There's also the issue of rising APRs. Even well-qualified borrowers are being offered interest rates far higher than they've seen in years. Higher APRs lead to higher payments, which reduce the pool of eligible buyers. That forces many consumers to downsize their vehicle choices or leave the market altogether. Meanwhile, internal lending memos suggest that some banks are re-evaluating their exposure to auto loans entirely. A few regional lenders have already reduced their auto portfolios. Others are signaling plans to shift resources towards safer, low-risk assets. When lenders pull back, the effects ripple quickly. Fewer approvals, higher down payment requirements, and stricter loan caps. The last piece of this puzzle is the growing attractiveness of leasing. For buyers who can't afford high finance payments, leases suddenly look appealing again. Automakers are responding by quietly lowering money factors, boosting lease credits, and adjusting residual values to make monthly payments more manageable. This trend could trigger the first major leasing boom since the early 2010s. But there's a catch. Leasing doesn't absorb the problem. It postpones it. When those leases end, the returned vehicles will flood the used market at the exact moment it's already suffering from oversupply. That's why analysts in the Edmunds report warn that the credit squeeze might be the most important force shaping the next stage of the correction. When financing becomes harder, everything else slows down. And when everything slows down, inventory builds, incentives rise, and automakers are forced to make desperate decisions behind the scenes. The next sections will explore those shifts, how buyers are reacting, how EVs are being hit the hardest, and which brands are surviving the storm. For years, the auto industry operated under a simple assumption: no matter how high prices climbed, no matter how steep the payments became, people would adjust. They would stretch their budgets, lengthen their loans, compromise on trims, or downgrade their expectations, because owning a car was considered a necessity, not a choice. But the Edmunds data shows something automakers didn't anticipate. Consumers have changed, and this shift in behavior is one of the clearest signs that the market is undergoing a deep reset. The first major shift is the rise of buyer resistance. Shoppers who once tolerated inflated payments are now walking away from deals entirely. Sales managers across the country have reported a surge in walkouts, situations where customers negotiate for hours, see the final monthly payment, and decide it isn't worth it. A few years ago, those same customers would have reluctantly signed high interest rates, elevated insurance premiums, and stagnant wage growth have pushed household budgets to the breaking point. For the first time in over a decade, consumers are saying no more often than they're saying yes. As the Edmunds report ripples through the automotive world, one thing is abundantly clear. The market we knew from 2020 to 23 is gone, and it's not coming back. The pandemic-era frenzy, empty lots, sky-high markups, desperate buyers, and unprecedented dealer leverage is being replaced by a very different reality. One where inventory is swelling, used values are sliding, credit is tightening, and consumers are no longer willing to play by the old rules. This is not a collapse in the sense of an overnight crash. It's a systemic reset driven by years of overpricing, miscalculated demand, and blind confidence that buyers would continue absorbing higher and higher payments. But Edmunds' data shows the opposite. Buyers are finally pushing back, and the industry is feeling it at every level. New car inventories are rising faster than sales can keep up. Used car values are falling under the weight of repossessions, lease returns, and outdated pandemic-era price structures. EVs, once marketed as the unstoppable future, are facing depreciation and insurance challenges. Nobody expected this early. And the lending system, once the silent engine behind easy auto credit, is now becoming more selective and more cautious. But amid the turmoil, there is opportunity. For the first time in years, buyers hold the leverage. Negotiation is back. Incentives are creeping up, often in ways that don't appear in public advertisements. Lease deals are improving as automakers try to stabilize falling residuals. And in the right segments, hybrids, compact SUVs, high-reliability sedans, the balance between price and long-term value is stronger than it has been in years. The winners in this market are the consumers who do their homework, compare incentives, check insurance quotes before signing anything, and avoid models caught in steep depreciation curves. The losers are those who rush into a purchase without understanding the correction that's unfolding all around them. For automakers, the next 6 to 12 months will be pivotal. They'll face pressure to cut production, rebalance portfolios, rethink EV strategies, and re-earn consumer trust that was strained by years of markups and inflated pricing. Some brands will adapt and emerge stronger. Others may struggle to recover from the inventory and financial losses already building. But for buyers, this turning point marks a rare moment of advantage. The market is shifting in your favor, and the data from Edmunds makes one thing clear. The smartest consumers in 2025 will be the ones who move carefully, negotiate boldly, and follow the trends, not the marketing. So before you step into a dealership, before you commit to a 7-year loan, before you trade in your current car, remember what the numbers are saying. We're entering a new phase of the automotive market, one shaped by correction, competition, and transparency. And the choices you make now won't just save you hundreds, they could save you thousands. This story is far from over. The correction is unfolding in real time, and the next wave, whether it's more inventory, deeper incentives, or even bigger shifts in consumer demand, will shape the auto industry for years to come. Stay informed, stay strategic, and most importantly, stay patient. In a market that's still finding its footing, the best deals often go to those who wait for the right moment to strike. The bubble has finally started to burst, and now the question is simple. Will you take advantage of it or get caught in the fallout? Once again, thanks for watching this video. If you got something out of this, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next one. And hey, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Agree, disagree, or something in between. I'd love to hear it.